Yo, what's going on, guys? Blue coming at you with my official guide to mastering movement in Warzone. Now, I do want to say this entire guide was recorded on keyboard and mouse, but with that said, you can apply any of the things you learned in this video or techniques to controller as I have myself. We're going to be covering three main topics: basic movement, advanced movement, and situational techniques, as well as my settings and practice routine at the end of the video. So with the big Warzone integration that just happened, we have defaulted gear and perks to our character that we haven't seen before in Warzone. So we have tack pads, which improve slide distance and allow for full aim down sight while sliding, along with increased stance transition speeds. We have commando gloves, which enable reloading while running. Quick grip gloves, which increase your weapon swap speed, basically amped from Warzone 1. Climbing boots, which increase climbing and mantling speed. And overkill, which allows you to pick two primary weapons. And before we get into the video, I just wanted to preface a few of the basic keybinds. So my top side mouse button, mouse 5, is my crouch and slide keybind, and then my prone is on control. Now, just because these work for me, they might not work for you. At the end of the day, keybinds are personal preference. With that said, all of the rest of my keybinds and movement settings are going to be at the end of the video, as well as everything else in this video will be timestamped. So any section that you have any questions about or want to work on specifically, all the different sections will be timestamped. But yeah, guys, enjoy the video. Feel free to comment down any other questions you have down below, and let's get into it. All right, starting out with basic movement, we got the slide cancel. Yes, it's back if you didn't know. This year though, it's only slide jump instead of slide jump. So you're just hitting your crouch or slide keybind and then just hitting space to cancel. And then of course you can also do the long slide cancel, which I do prefer in certain situations, which is just basically letting your slide go for longer and then canceling it. Next up is the all-time classic that's been in COD for over a decade, the drop shot. Basically, as you're shooting, you're just hitting your prone keybind and going into a drop shot. As well as the jump shot that's been around for just as long. You're just pressing your space bar either once or multiple times to jump while you're shooting. And then introduced in last year's Warzone, the dolphin dive, which for me is on middle mouse. Getting into advanced movement, starting off with the Bhop. Now, the traditional Bhop is not in the game at the moment, but the devs have said they might implement some form of Bhopping in the future. But with that said, you still can do the old school super Bhop, which is jumping from a high surface and hitting the ground and immediately hitting space. This just comes down to timing. You could do this in Warzone 1 as well. The only way you can Bhop in this game in terms of actually getting a bounce is from a high up surface. So it's more so just a style thing more so than something you're going to be doing in every gunfight. And then next up we got dive combos, which is one of my personal favorite things to do with how they implemented diving with the climbing boots in Warzone, since they are defaulted to your character. So as you see here, I'm doing a mantle into an immediate dolphin dive. So as soon as you mantle, you're hitting your dive keybind and it's almost a fluid motion and it looks super smooth. And as you can see from the enemy's POV in this specific situation, he does not expect it basically. Versus me just running off the edge, he was caught off guard, missed the first little bit of his clip, and then it was too late because I already did enough damage to him. Now you can also use the dive to bounce off ledges and thin surfaces. It just all depends on the angle you're hitting stuff at. This really just comes down to practice, but just some style stuff you can do and end up getting the upper hand on your enemy and sort of surprise them in a way. Another example of the mantle into the immediate dolphin dive. It's just super smooth at traversing around the map, and you know, there I'm going through a window. And like I said, it is one of my favorite things to do when moving around the map and even in gunfights when the situation comes up. Next up, we got the slide and ADS, which is new to Warzone. It was implemented in MW3 with the tack pads, but since they are defaulted to our character in Warzone, you can slide in ADS. Probably won't be used in every situation you ever get into, but it is definitely worth covering. Basically, you're ADSing while you're starting your slide into the gunfight, catching your enemy off guard because you're already firing your gun, and then you can cancel your slide at the end of it. Here we got the climbing boots with and without. Now, like I said, they are defaulted to your character in Warzone, so you can actually see how much faster you're climbing ladders with the defaulted climbing boots. So if you're ever like hesitant to climb a certain ladder, just remember you climb ladders much faster now since we have climbing boots by default. So you can actually move up ladders significantly faster than you could in the past Warzone experience. Next up, we got the instant drop shot, which if you saw in the basic movement, the drop shot traditionally isn't that special, but the instant drop shot, this comes down to usually having momentum. So whether you're sprinting or just moving forward, You're then going to hit your S keybind, you're hitting your back keybind, and then you're pressing your prone keybind right after that in a seamless motion. From your own POV, it doesn't look like you're doing too much different than a normal drop shot, but from the enemy POV, as you can see, it's pretty much instant, which is going to be way harder to track versus just a normal like slow drop shot. Next up, we got the advanced jump shot. Now I don't really want to call this a B-hop because, you know, back in Warzone 1 you'd be able to hit a B-hop off of this. I'm just going to call it the advanced jump shot. You can call it really whatever you want, but this is basically just you're having momentum moving forward, and then you're going to strafe jump out left and then just continue to jump once you hit the ground while you're shooting your enemy. Next up, we got crouch spamming, which this can be good in really any situation. You're basically just bobbing up and down, kind of breaking your character model. This is obviously way more effective behind any piece of cover, like a vehicle or just any surface. You're just spamming your crouch button and peeking your enemy. And then that comes with snaking, which is an even more effective version of that. Snaking is one of my favorite things to do. For me, I hit S or back with prone, and then you're tack sprinting out of it, and then S or back with prone. So it's prone, tack sprint out, S, prone. You can obviously move around while doing that to kind of make it all, you know, a fluid motion. That's the basic snake input that I do myself. They did nerf snaking with season 1, but even after the nerf, you can really do a lot with it still. And as you can see on screen, this example, I put a mobile cover down, snake behind it, peek, re-snake again, and then slide out. And this poor burger has no idea what to do. And then another example, I was getting shot at, so I started snaking the AC unit here to get information on where I was getting shot from. And then I put another deployable cover down after he re-peeked again, pulled out the sniper, snaked up the heady, and domed him. Another example here, getting shot at, snaking the half wall here. The guy isn't hitting a shot on me. Then I place a mobile cover down, snake it again, and then dome him. And then into this guy shooting me, run back to the truck, snake the truck, and then dome the guy in the window. Next up, we got directional movement. Now, this is just combining all the stuff we've covered so far in the video, but just changing directions quickly. As you can see, going from cover to cover, through windows, snaking, proning, into drop shotting, slide canceling, dolphin diving, whatever it may be. Changing directions while doing these things is very hard to shoot. And that leads me into movement combos. Basically everything we just covered, you're combining all of these things together. It looks kind of goofy on screen because this is super over exaggerated. Obviously you're not going to be doing this much in a gunfight, but yeah, you get the gist of it. You know, sliding, jumping, snaking, all that stuff, changing directions. Next up, we got Mantle Tech and just combinations regarding that, because like I said, with the defaulted climbing boots, you can do a lot of crazy things over small ledges and counters like this. So this is just something fun to play around with. You got to get your rhythm down with the climbing and mantling, but once you get that rhythm down, you can be super fluid, you know, climbing up into a window or climbing over a ledge, and you can just use these things to outplay your enemy basically. And next up, we got my personal favorite, the car plays and the seat swaps, which a lot of people love the car plays and the seat swaps, as I do myself. So basically, a seat swap is you're pressing your crouch keybind. For me, it's on my mouse. That switches your seat. And what you can do from there is you can lean out of the window. For me, that's F. The thing with car plays is it's just the ultimate outplay machine in isolated gunfights. It is the least expected thing when someone is fighting you. 99.9% of the player base does not do any of this. Even like the top players, I don't really see many of them doing too many car plays. So basically, as you'll see on screen, a few different examples from the first few days of playing. This first guy, you know, he's shooting at me, I'm plating up. I get in the car, he's still peeking the side of the car which I entered. I immediately switch seats and lean out the window, and he's immediately domed before he can even realize what happened. This next example, this guy's flying in on me. I somehow missed the no scope, but since he lands behind me, I enter the car, switch to the passenger seat, and then exit the car. So I'm on the opposite side of the car from the enemy, and then I slide out and get the smooth kill on him. And this one's a drive-by, switch seats, lean out, absolutely gun the guy on the roof. Not really too much he could have done. He didn't even realize what I did after I switched seats. And then another thing to add is if you're leaning out of the window of your car and exit the vehicle, you actually sort of do a fly out animation, which as you'll see on screen with this guy that I was fighting, I was leaning out the window and dove out, which all you're doing is leaning out the window and then exiting the vehicle, and you sort of just launch in a diving fashion. And this guy had no idea what happened because he was still looking for me and realized I was behind him. And by then it was too late. Next up, we got the Superman dive or the Superman glide, whatever you want to call it. This isn't really a consistent thing to integrate into your play, but it's just something fun to mess around with. But sometimes if you're on a weird ledge or surface and you run off of it and dive a certain way, you'll actually go into the flying animation. As you'll see on this example here, off this little bus stop, and I just do the fly animation. You're only going to really get the consistent Superman glide off of super high surfaces like cranes. I wouldn't say it's too useful. It's more so just a style thing. Now getting into situational techniques, first up we got door plays, another one of my favorite things to do. These absolutely can bamboozle or stun your enemy. If done correctly and timed correctly, they won't even know what hit them. So basically you're running into a door, shutting it right when you enter, and then re-busting through the door and essentially stunning your enemy. Now on screen here, I was getting chased by this guy, entered the building, went behind the open door and busted it back outward towards the guy and slid out. Before he even knew it, I was already behind him while he was still looking inside, not even realize what just happened to him. But the biggest thing is coming down to timing and when not to do it. Next up, we got using cover correctly. This is just given any situation you're in, any part of the map you're on, just utilizing the cover that is around you, because at the end of the day, you being on a piece of cover and the enemy that isn't on a piece of cover, whoever's on the piece of cover has a massive advantage. Just using cover correctly, you can apply snaking to it, the crouch spamming, you can slide cancel out from using cover, you can do like an instant drop shot. Just make sure you're always using cover in your fights, if possible, of course, because hard cover is the most OP thing an enemy has to fight against if they don't have any cover themselves. Next up, we got shouldering. Basically what this is, shouldering for information. This could be when you're plating up and weak, or you got a guy chasing you and you just get to a piece of cover. You're just basically moving left and right, or you're jumping for information and just sort of peeking very, very briefly. I usually do this whenever I'm plating up. These are just little things in gunfights that help you get the upper hand, rather than running behind a piece of cover, plating up and not looking out the other way at all where your enemy was shooting you, because they could just push up and kill you. But if you run to a piece of cover, start shouldering it while plating or healing up, you'll see if the guy is pushing you, and that's going to give you a lot more of an upper hand and information over just running behind the cover and proning behind it and just plating up. Next up, we got the classic breaking cameras. This one's just very brief, but if you don't know what camera breaking is, it's basically when you have an enemy facing you and you slide out or even sprint past them. So basically you're just sliding underneath them or by them to get out of their entire field of view. Next up, we got running with the correct weapon out. This is just another little thing. So if you're running like a sniper and an SMG loadout, or an assault rifle and an SMG, whatever it may be, if you're just moving around the map, you just want to be running out with the lighter weapon. So in this case, an SMG over an AR or a sniper. And then next up, we got the YY, whatever you want to call it. This is just something, you know, you can add into your playstyle just for style. It's more so just a habit to keep my fingers warm. But with that said, there is an actual, you know, use to YYing, and that is when you're picking up like a weapon off of the ground, for example. So if you were landing in on a POI and landing on loot, instead of just picking up the gun and then running and getting into a gunfight, it's gonna have to do that whole pickup animation and cockback of the weapon, versus if you land, pick up the gun, immediately press your weapon switch key, which is for me 3, pressing that twice, or if you're on controller, pressing triangle or Y twice immediately, and that cancels the animation, just speeds it up significantly faster. And lastly, we got my practice routine, which this is just something you can use to warm up. I don't really do it as much nowadays, but it definitely was something I was doing every day when trying to get better at the game. You're basically just going into a private match. You do need to own Modern Warfare 3 to be able to do this. You're gonna put it on free-for-all, the highest time possible, the highest score possible. I turn the radar on, I put like unlimited mags, and I put the max amount of bots. And basically from there, you can just run around, practice movement, practice your aim, learn new keybinds, just something to warm up with or practice. Like I said, I don't do it as much nowadays, but I still definitely do it sometimes. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap up the official guide to mastering movement in Warzone. If you made it this far in the video, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to comment down below. Drop a like on the video, subscribe for daily uploads, and have a good rest of your day.
Recording stuff for the guide. Damn. Alright, so here you want to slide cancel. Hopefully the enemy isn't good at the game, because then it'll actually work. Next, jump in the air. Hopefully you're on a controller, or your aim will go all over the place. Alright, that's the guide. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye bye.